It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for April 17th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Sega has a lot of money, and it is not spending it on a Skies of Arcadia sequel, and the Mario movie continues to crush at the box office. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Emma Fyffe. Emma, how are you doing?
You know, I'm great. I feel like I was at a wedding this weekend, and so I just am generally trying to catch up on what's going on in the world. The big news, of course, for me last night and a lot of the world was that we all crashed Netflix trying to watch the Love is Blind Season 4 live reunion show, which is apparently clocked in at somewhere close to 3 hours. So now I'm questioning whether or not I even want to bother because I feel like 3 hours, maybe editing is actually a great thing.
Yeah. So this is the first time Netflix has ever tried to stream anything live on Netflix, right?
I believe that Chris Rock did a comedy special live on Netflix once. But yes, I mean, certainly nothing of this scale. And it was so funny because I'm sure you can relate to this too, Grubb, like having produced a ton of live events, the anxiety I had for those producers.
Oh, yes. It just sounds
wild.
Like a total. It sounds like it just broke in every way. And I saw the tweet.
Yeah.
I was like, why is Netflix trending? Everyone's sort of losing their mind. And then I saw the tweet. They're like, oh, the Love is Blind thing. Well, we're going to record it and post it later.
Yeah.
So is it available to watch now? People can watch it?
I think it is available to watch now. There was a point last night where, so basically, like, again, I was away, so I had some stuff to catch up on, Yellow Jackets and Grand Crew and all these other, these sort of Friday shows that I watch. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I'm going to watch Grand Crew. I'm going to watch Yellow Jackets. This is all great. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to come back to Netflix and see where we're at with Love is Blind, with the reunion. And that was when I clicked on the thing and it said that it was 2 hours and 51 minutes. And I tried to launch it at that point thinking, well, all right, I'll dive into it a little bit. And I heard actually it's not very good. And I tried to load it and it still would not let me in. So, at this point, I think that Twitter covered it well enough for me and I just don't care.
Exactly. I did not listen. I have heard a lot of people talk about Love is Blind. I did not realize it was this mecca that people were all going toward.
Yeah,
where it's like there's a live event. We all have to watch it at the same time.
It's truly my favorite trash TV. Like, it is not good. There was one couple this season, Brett and Tiffany, who were lovely. Like, truly, it seemed like they were on a different show than everybody else. Like, everybody else would be starting drama over basically nothing. And Tiffany and Brett would go, so should we get a joint bank account to pay for utilities? They were the only grown-ups on the show. It was wild.
That's fun. It's fun to have that contrast, right?
Yeah,
those characters to put everyone else in the perspective.
Exactly. It was almost as if they were on the vastly superior Love is Blind Japan.
Of course. That's what we want here. That's what we need here in America is that level of Love is Blind, please.
Yes.
All right, we're going to get into this mess, but before we do, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Sega is set to acquire Rovio for 706 million euros, which is about $776 million. The Japanese games giant is looking to acquire Rovio's outstanding shares and options at about €9.25 a share, or €1.48 per option. Rovio's board of directors have expressed their support for the deal. The acquisition is expected to close in the second quarter of the current financial year. The logic behind the deal involves utilizing Rovio's expertise to accelerate Sega's IP in the mobile space, IP such as Sonic the Hedgehog, which has seen some mobile success already. It matches Sega's planned strategy around enhancing and expanding its brands globally. Rovio has struggled to develop additional IP beyond the Angry Birds brand, and this would provide the company with new franchises to work with. Emma, we'll kind of start there. This is a weird one, right?
It's so weird because I was thinking too, I was like, Rovio, that's the Angry Birds company, right? And so I'm like literally looking at their website right now going, did they do anything else? And it seems they do have other titles, including Small Town Murders and Sugar Blast.
Yes, they have their attempts to copy all the other popular mobile games, right?
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, look, I understand Sega. I mean, all the gaming companies I think are very cognizant of the fact that mobile gaming is an incredibly viable field to be in right now, and it is something that you almost have to be in order to maintain relevance within the gaming space, because quite frankly, no matter how much purist PC gamers want to moan and complain about it, mobile gaming is a huge industry, and it is gaming. And there's tons of people who I think are mobile gamers who don't necessarily identify as gamers per se, but they have spent hours and hours and hours and hours of their lives playing Angry Birds. I mean, it could be Candy Crush, but Angry Birds was definitely it was a phenomenon for a moment. It was the first mobile game that I feel like I played a whole lot. And so I mean, I understand Sega's thought process here, but at the same time, like, Sega, what are we doing with our own properties at the moment,
Yes, this is I don't know. Honestly, like when I step back, they feel like kind of like an okay match just based on like where they're both at.
Sure.
Sonic's had 2 Hollywood movies, so have the Angry Birds, and they both were kind of pretty, okay in terms of success.
They're fine.
And, yeah. And it's like, okay. And well, now they're going to try to combine their powers. Rovio has definitely struggled to like make sense of where it's at in terms of its future concerns. They recently did that weird thing where they're like, hey, we are basically going to delist the paid version of Angry Birds, because and then they under their breath were like, because everyone's playing that instead of playing the one with microtransactions, the one that would actually make us more money.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, that's weird. That seems like a kind of a desperate move. And so I'm not surprised that Rovio's in a position where like, hey, let's kind of sell. We're not going to sell for, $8, $9, $12 billion, like even Zynga did. Like Zynga was $12 billion. Right. So it's like, yeah, okay, this is kind of seems like a deal compared to a lot of those other things.
For sure.
And Sega does want to be sort of everywhere. They've, they're not taking Sonic like, oh, it's a big PC move with Sonic to PC, but they've got a lot of other PC games that have been very successful, and they're like one of the better publishers on PC of the last 10 years. And so I could think of saying like, okay, let's sort of expand that strategy to mobile. But at the same time, this does seem like keyed around, okay, we have Sonic, we want to put him everywhere. Sure, we've made a few mobile games. Let's bring in Rovio and they could take it over. I will say Rovio did do one of my favorite mobile games ever, a game called Retry, which you can't get anymore.
Oh,
such a little plane that like does these loop-de-loops and you got to tap it and stuff, and it had a great soundtrack. I'm like, oh, they had some pretty good developers over there, but that was years ago. I wonder if that sort of rush from Rovio making Angry Birds to now in that same area, I think it's Sweden, a bunch of people left Rovio and started their own studios. I wonder like what's really even left at Rovio for Sega to mine, or if it's sort of just like, they have like inroads to mobile, right? Maybe that's it.
Yeah. I think that is the key here, is that, Rovio definitely does have did have a big foothold in the mobile gaming space. And I see your point that you're bringing up there, Jeff, that you do have these two companies that are in sort of a similar position where it feels like they have these very beloved IPs, but they're just kind of treading water, and Angry Birds, they're just living off of the legacy of that. And with Sonic has very much been hinged upon its own legacy. Now, as you point out, Sega does publish a ton of other titles and are, actually have a pretty robust catalog when it comes to the stuff that they actually publish. But as far as their own IP goes, it does feel like everything's they are in similar positions where it's like, okay, we have these recognizable IPs, but we're not really doing anything new with them.
Sega's big new thing is Hyenas, which I haven't played it. I have no idea. But it's like, I'm not too excited about it, and I don't hear people talking about it, but it's like they're trying something. It's like, oh, that is that really worth the investment? And I guess they would know better because again, I haven't played it, but
Yeah, I guess.
yeah, but it's like you could see it easily doing what a lot of other live service shooter games have done, which is kind of come and go and fizzle out and go away, and we never hear about it again. And it's like, oh, okay. It also just doesn't feel very Sega. And Sega continues to say, hey, we want to take our old games and bring them back, bring these franchises, freshen them up. That's the plan with what we saw with Jet Set Radio. That's the plan with Crazy Taxi. And we want to do this with even more of these brands. I think having a multi sort of faceted strategy of, yeah, we're going to invest in these big games for consoles and PC, but it's going to help us a lot to also have versions of these IP on mobile, sort of making a lot of money in their own way. And we could do that ourselves, but by bringing in Rovio, the investment here is they can make game after game after game really quickly. One of them might hit, make a lot of money, and become our Genshin Impact or something like that, which I'm sure is kind of what they want.
Can you imagine it's Genshin Impact but Sonic? Like it's just you're just going around collecting hedgehog waifus.
Exactly. Everybody's OCs are in there. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see.
Yeah, if you've never Googled your name plus the hedgehog,
you have to
highly encourage you to do that.
I demand it. You have to do it right now. This story goes on to say Rovio has a live service platform called Beacon, plus a large audience in the US and Europe to help Sega achieve growth in the mobile market. Sega also believes it can use its experience maintaining and growing the Sonic brand to help extend and grow the Angry Birds IP. So it's going to go both directions. And, you know, Angry Birds does feel like of its time now. And I wonder, it's like, what magic can Sega bring to that?
I mean, I'm envisioning a like classic gotta go fast side-scrolling Sonic title, but with Red from Angry Birds instead of Sonic. But then I'm also envisioning in any future, because you know how in the Sonic titles, it's like when you defeat an enemy, there's like a cute little animal. And in the Sonic Adventure games, you would, I guess, feed those animals to your chows and evolve them into more interesting looking chows. So now I'm envisioning that the only little animals in there are all the characters from Angry Birds.
Exactly. A chow garden with Angry Birds in it.
A chow garden of Angry Birds.
Sounds inevitable at this point. Absolutely. Yeah. The CEOs of both companies shared their statements. It's the typical, I feel blessed to be able to announce such a transaction, that sort of stuff. We'll see where this goes. This deal's almost certainly going to close. This is it's a good match. I think the question a lot of people are going to have, Emma, is that Sega has often been the target amongst fantasy booking, where people are like, hey, who's going to buy who? Who's going to acquire who? Sega's like one of the first names that comes up in those situations. Do you think that this like stifles or puts an end to a lot of that guessing, or does Sega still look like a good target even after this?
It's interesting because I think that Sega is trying to position themselves as almost like a neutral party of like, well, we're Sega and we're just going to keep quietly acquiring things that make sense for us. And, you know, ultimately, yes, they could be in a position wherein they have acquired so many companies that they seem super viable to be acquired themselves. But I don't think that that's where it's going at the moment.
Yeah, it's these things they can change quickly. I think Sega, I think Square Enix, a lot of these companies were like preparing themselves to be acquired, and then the reality changed really fast. Interest rates went way up, and it became a lot more difficult to borrow that much money. I'm sure Sega's figuring out, because I don't think they have $750 million in the bank. They're borrowing a lot of this, I'm sure, but it's like, financing a $750 million deal a little bit easier than financing a $4, $5, $8 billion deal, whatever it would cost to acquire Sega. So it's like, okay, that changed, and now they're looking around like, okay, well, what can we do? We can either continue to slim ourselves down and streamline ourselves, which I think has been Square Enix's plan, to be like, oh, let's make ourselves slighter and slighter to make ourselves easier to incorporate into a bigger thing. Yep. And I think Sega's taken maybe a slightly different strategy here. It's like, let's try to operate on our own going forward. Let's build out a strategy that really fits with what we've done before. And at the same time, let's not do anything that's necessarily going to blow up the possibility of us being acquired. Because, Activision acquired King. That didn't stop Activision from being acquired. And I think this is something that fits together. And it's like, okay, this is only going to make them more valuable when someone does show up at their door and says, hey, we're ready to buy you. But I don't think Sega is, and I think a lot of these companies are no longer expecting that to be imminent, where it's like, okay, we're just going to wake up tomorrow and someone's going to have a big check at our door. That's going to maybe take another couple of years if it happens ever.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the strategy is very smart, actually, of basically, you know, in Sega's case going, well, we are going to find, you know, we're going to stay strong in the publishing game. We're going to acquire other companies where it makes sense to do so that we are viable if and when we are going to be sold. But in the meantime, we're able to exist as this entity. Yep,
exactly. And then we can make a Chow Garden mobile game. Just like the VMU game.
I know, I'm seeing that in chat a lot. Yes. People are like, Chow Garden would be great on mobile.
Yep, it does make a lot of sense. So that's number one priority. And then and then they can get back to a Skies of Arcadia game, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along here. Media Molecule co-founder and Dreams director Mark Healey has left the studio. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Media Molecule co-founder and creative director Mark Healey has confirmed that he is leaving the studio. In a series of tweets, Healey, who directed Dreams, wrote, "So after 17 incredible years of co-birthing and building Media Molecule, I have decided it is time for me to fly the nest and set sail and chart a new course. Today is my last day at Media Molecule. From Little Big Planet to Dreams and beyond, proud to have played my part and lucky to have jammed with some truly brilliant people and such a wonderfully talented community, which I will continue to be a fan of." He added, "But a strong cosmic breeze is pulling me and my pirate heart is awakened. I'm not getting any younger, so I'm going to indulge myself in the winds of my various curiosities for a while and see where they take me. So here's to new beginnings, following one's heart and exploring the unknown." This is not too surprising.
No.
Media Molecule just stopped supporting Dreams, or said they're going to stop supporting Dreams in September. They just announced that last week. It feels like Media Molecule has... It's set out to do this thing of like, let's create software that people can interact with and build their own things on top of that. Dreams was the ultimate version of that idea. Where else do you go? Does Sony even want to try to go down that road again with Media Molecule? I doubt it. So Mark Healey getting out there makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The pirate metaphor of it all is pretty interesting as well, because to me, it just sounds like he's going to take the money he's made and like just go follow, I don't know, like travel around the world. Mm-hmm. But you know, obviously there's a lot of pirate games out there. So it is very possible that he would be moving over to another studio to work on something of that fashion. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like, I think he's, you know, to continue with the pirate metaphor, like jumping ship at a good time.
Yeah, it's you know, they're cashing in, or he's cashing in and moving on. I think that's right. I definitely, there's a lot of the pirate metaphor in his tweets. So people are speculating, hey, Rare is not too, it's just down the street basically.
Yeah.
He maybe he's going to go work there. Maybe, but I think this is just him saying, no, this is what my heart is. Someone who's got to like, I'm married to the sea. I got to get back out there. That sort of thing. So
he's just going to become a cruise ship captain.
I love it. Yes, that's perfect. His LinkedIn right now says like, hey, I'm done working at Media Molecule and I'm open to work. Doesn't say anything about where he's moving on to, or if he is moving on to, he's probably going to start his own thing, because that's what a lot of people do. And I think if you have experience building user-generated content platforms, you are going to be in high demand because everyone wants their Roblox. And, you know, if he could go work for many of those companies that want to build their Roblox, but what he could probably do is get a lot of money to fund his own thing, to build his version of what that would look like. Because I bet he doesn't want to just make something that operates exactly like Roblox and instead is still kind of in that vein of what he's done at Media Molecule. Yeah. So, yeah, he's going to be in high demand.
Most definitely.
All right, let's hit this next one. Super Mario Brothers movie passes $600 million at the box office. Now biggest video game adaptation ever. This comes from Chris Moyes at Destructoid. Universal's smash hit flick, The Super Mario Brothers movie, is now officially the highest grossing video game adaptation of all time, having bagged an incredible $677 million at the global box office in just its first 2 weeks of release. The Illumination-produced feature, which stars Chris Pratt as the iconic Nintendo mascot, had already surpassed a $500 million box office by the midway point of last week, but has since gone on to record yet another amazing weekend, pushing the number up by over $100 million, surpassing Marvel's latest endeavor, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, to become the highest-grossing film of 2023 so far. This movie has a strong chance of being the top-grossing movie of the year, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I saw some tweets. I can't take credit for this, but I did see somebody tweet something to the effect of, man, it's wild that the Super Mario Brothers movie is going to have to be nominated for Best Picture under the Top Gun clause, simply based on its box office success.
Yep. That's right.
It's wild. I went and saw it at like 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the theater was still full of children.
Wow. Yeah. I'm like, I still haven't taken my kids. I want to. I'm like looking for the right time.
Yeah.
I'm like, it just seems like it's always going to be packed here for the next couple few weeks.
I mean, it like going to a screening of the Super Mario Brothers movie is the equivalent of going to a rowdy screening of Cats in the end of 2019, except instead of a bunch of drunk adults, it's just a bunch of children who love Mario. And I mean, this is the thing is Illumination, the thing that they do extremely well is make visually appealing films that children want to watch over and over and over and over again. And that is absolutely what the Mario Brothers movie is. It is, there are no significant character arcs. It doesn't have a ton of personality, but it is, I mean, I thought the animation for all of the platforming and everything was very, very appealing. And the performances were generally pretty good. And again, it's like, I had a nice time. It's no like Turning Red or like a Pixar heartfelt, like really has a message. There's kind of a cute story.
Yeah, it's not even like on a DreamWorks level, really. It's not like it's not. But you know what? The animation's incredible and kids want to see it. Adults want to see it because of the nostalgia. And between this and the first US domestic opening of a Super Nintendo World, like, my God, Universal is just, they are just counting those Benjamins, having a great time. So yeah. Yes, it's going to be a stack of money. I knew this movie was going to do really well. I mean, Illumination animated films, a lot of them make $1 billion. So it was easy to predict that. Yep. I didn't think like immediately number one highest grossing movie of the year so far, and it's on a path to do like Top Gun Maverick numbers, which is unbelievable. So I mean, this thing could easily get to 1.5 million or $1 billion here worldwide by the end of its run. I mean, it's not even launched in Japan yet, which I expected to do very well in.
Yeah, it doesn't launch in Japan until end of next week, I want to say.
April,
it's like
April 28th.
April 28th. Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Japan in the middle of May, and I kind of want to see it in Japan because I want to see it in Japanese because I really like the Japanese voices. It's a lot of like very accomplished seiyuu, including the guy who did Mamoru Miyano, who was the voice of Light Yagami in Death Note, is the voice of Mario, and it's kind of great. But yeah, I mean, it's who would have thought going into this year that the Super Mario Brothers movie would be Universal's top grossing film of the year when Fast 10 Part 1 is on its way. Yeah. But I think that it will actually have an extremely difficult time making the kind of money that the Mario movie is making because you just can't reach as wide of an audience because you are not accounting for children and the fact that kids want to see things over and over and over again. Like when I was a kid, I have vivid memories of seeing Beauty and the Beast in the movie theater 4 or 5 times. That is something I don't do anymore. I don't go to movies multiple times in the theaters, but children will.
Yes. And I mean, this is this is a movie I could tell already after I saw it. I'm like, this is just going to be on in my house constantly, 24/7. Once it's out on home video, the kids are just going to watch it nonstop. So yeah, I mean, it's that broad audience you mentioned. That is, I think, something that a lot of these movie studios are going to be looking at. Like video games have been around for a long time. There are a lot of brands that were popular in the 80s, the 90s, and are still among the most popular games today. And it's really hard to build something that is that appealing. So I think Chris Boyce in the story says that movie studios have easily turned heads. It's very easily to be like they were into one thing, then something happens, and now they're into another thing. And I think video game movies, anything akin to Mario, is going to be exactly that. Is there anything really out there though that could do this? I mean, even Detective Pikachu didn't do anything close to this, right?
No, it didn't. I mean, anything that's coming out this year, I just don't think so. Again, Illumination was really brilliant in their approach to this because Illumination did what Illumination does, and they made a kids movie. And they just banked on the fact that the nostalgia and general popularity of the Super Mario Brothers brand would bring out adult audiences as well. And they're right.
Yep. And it's, exactly. It's like, it is appealing to everybody. And it's not, the word of mouth is not like, oh, you're right, that does have a story. It's like, oh, you got to go see it because there's this and this and this inside the movie that references this and this. And that's what everyone wants. And you're right. It's very visually appealing. So it's done its job. And now I think it's gonna have a big effect on what happens next in Hollywood in terms of the kinds of movies they're making.
Yes.
It's gonna be with superhero movies. I think it's Top Gun Maverick and now the Mario are these two North stars that a lot of movie studios are going to begin following here.
And quite frankly, Universal has been looking for their Marvel Cinematic Universe. They tried with the Dark Universe and that didn't work out, though now people are having some speculation around the film Renfield, whether we're going to revisit that. But
I hope so.
My money is on Universal putting all of their money into culminating in a Super Smash Brothers film.
I mean, it's every part of that deal, is just, it pays dividends in its other areas. It's like, okay, well, we increase the popularity of these game IP by making movies that are very successful. Then that makes all the investments we made in the Universal Studios, that the theme parks, that makes them more valuable. So I think it just makes so much sense that there's no way that they don't double down, triple down on this stuff here very quickly.
Completely.
Everyone's like, oh, Donkey Kong movie's next. People are sneaking around LinkedIn and IMDb credits and stuff, and are like, oh, it's like a Luigi movie might be actually coming up even sooner than that.
Haunted Mansion, Luigi's Mansion would be
so
Luigi's
great. Mansion movie,
that's a no-brainer.
As soon as possible is. I think that is potential to be just as big as this, because it's like
absolutely
a Halloween kind of spooky thing for kids is just that. They would go.
That's a slam dunk.
Absolutely. So. And I would love that too. I think it's a really good idea. And yes, let's get Gooigi. Let's get Gooigi up in there, please.
Yeah.
All right. Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake has been hinted at by a recording studio tweet. This comes from Mohammed Hassan at DualShockers. Donna Burke, the Australian voice actress known for her contributions to Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, and fitness boxing, has added to the excitement surrounding the rumored Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater remake by sharing a recent selfie of herself holding a Snake Eater pamphlet during a recent recording session. Fans noticed Donna Burke's photo on her account, along with another showing the lyrics of the original theme song resting on a desk. This is something that became very interesting, Emma, because we know Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is being remade by Virtuous.
Yes.
This has been reported over and over. I've heard this before. This thing's coming. It's probably going to get announced here pretty soon. And so, they're re-recording Snake Eater theme song. It seems to match up. Now, the director of the recording session, Mason Lieberman, did go to Twitter and state that this session has no ties to any hypothesized Metal Gear Solid 3 remake project. He said not to rain on anyone's parade, but to avoid misinformation getting out there. We are not working on Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. We're also not working for Tencent before that conspiracy takes hold. I don't know what that is. Yes, we're working on Snake Eater. Yes, it sounds incredible. To be announced. I don't know if I super believe him.
I don't think I super. Okay, so he basically says in that same statement, we're not working on Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Yes, we are working on Snake Eater.
Yeah, and I think Snake Eater being the song. I think that working on Snake Eater, the song.
Snake Eater, the song.
Yeah, but to what end? I mean,
listen, I'm gonna say that statement is complete bullshit. I think that this is another situation. I remember when there was a lot of speculation around there being this is in the Star Wars realm of things, an Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And it was literally like a few weeks later, I think it was a D23 or something like that. Ewan McGregor comes out on stage and it's this whole oh, yes, I am going to be returning as Obi-Wan. And I remember when those rumors started getting reported again by not necessarily your like prestigious journalistic websites, etc., but people who, they know what's up. And so this is a rumor that seems very likely true. And I feel like the Metal Gear Solid 3 of it all, again, they're just trying to contain it so they can have that hype moment wherever it is that they are going to present this presentation. The thing that's super interesting is, again, with E3 not happening this year, obviously there's Summer Games Fest, but it does seem as though some of these gaming companies are going to pivot a little bit into San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes.
So I do sort of wonder, again, if it's like they're basically planning to have some sort of press conference situation, be it at Summer Games Fest, be it something that they do independently, though I can't really imagine a Konami entity attempting to like produce a presentation when, all they do is make pachinko machines. But yeah, I mean, this is bullshit. They're remaking the game. We know they are. Like,
yeah. I'm like, with these kinds of things, I was like, I'd like to say, look for the space where both things can be true. I think, okay, maybe the song isn't for the remake. Maybe it's for the announcement of the remake.
I said,
maybe it's for a new
saying.
trailer.
That's literally exactly what I'm saying. It's like, maybe it's for what would have been an E3 press conference.
Yep.
If you've ever, I don't know, chat, if you've ever watched those or been to those, but they're big to-dos. They're big presentations. And so it makes total sense that they would incorporate the new recording of the song into something like that. Or as you say, Grubb, in a trailer. But yeah.
Yeah. And it's, that's the kind of thing where it's like, the timing makes sense. We are 2 months, 2 months out from like when that stuff needs to like happen. So it's like that stuff would definitely be long planned before this, getting recorded now, getting integrated into like probably some, new filming of some new stuff. That they and capturing new stuff that they could show off, either for a trailer or whatever. Even if it's just something they're like, oh yeah, we re-record the soundtrack or putting that out as its own thing. There's a million reasons why this can still be true and have a lot to do with the remake that's coming without the people working on it actually getting to say we're working on the remake. It could be like a little space between, but yeah, I think the timing is too conspicuous for this not really to be related. I think that's always a dangerous thing. Sometimes these things do happen. It is coincidence, but
yes,
for the most part, I'm like, this time I don't think so. This time I really think that this is probably happening because the remake is going to get announced this summer. I think it's one of the big things that Konami is going to have. Konami was supposed to be at E3. E3's canceled. Yes. So where's Konami going to go? They all those things were already in motion. They can't take that stuff. They could, but it's like, why not? Or why not just keep going with it? Because there's going to be other places to show that stuff, whether it is, Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, probably not, because they have not a great relationship with Jeff Keighley anymore. But there's other places where they probably could fit that. So yeah, San Diego Comic-Con does actually seem like a place that a lot of people are retreating to, and I think that's likely. We'll see. We don't have to wait long. We will see for ourselves here pretty soon, I think.
Yes.
Nintendo is escalating its war on popular Zelda YouTuber behind the multiplayer Breath of the Wild mod. This comes from Ethan Gach at Kotaku. In the wake of a massive hype wave following the latest The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom trailer, Nintendo has seemingly ratcheted up the number of rogue copyright claims it puts out against content creators on YouTube. But at least one of them is hitting back. In his latest video, Eric Point Crow Marino pleaded with Nintendo to leave his channel alone after it recently received dozens of additional claims against his videos. Here's a quote: "Please remove these strikes and claims, or at least start a dialogue with us so we can all move forward with the excitement I'm sure you would love to see about your future games," Marino said in a video to Nintendo, posted on YouTube on April 14th, that he said was vetted by his lawyer. The request comes after the Switch manufacturer apparently doubled down on issuing copyright claims and strikes against Marino's channel, increasing the total number to 28, including ones against older videos that had nothing to do with Breath of the Wild, with like ones about Wii Sports. There's a lot going on here, but basically this is someone who mods Breath of the Wild and then posts videos. And Nintendo has, either struck or claimed every single one of those. And then it's also begun claiming some other ones that are just Nintendo related. And then some that are just Breath of the Wild vanilla gameplay. And they're claiming those as well. It's like, this is not modded. This is just a normal Breath of the Wild thing. But it seems like Nintendo's going a little bit overboard, just trying to crack down here in a hard way. And I think they're feeling kind of a lot of pressure to maintain this air of mystery and then to make sure that people are going to be hesitant about doing anything when Tears of the Kingdom almost assuredly leaks here in the next week or so. It's going to be a line.
Nintendo historically has always been hyper protective of its IP to the point that they are, it just reminds me of the whole Smash Brothers controversy, of the fact that, that many Smash tournaments, especially, during the pandemic when people were trying to do things remotely, like they were using Slippy to run Smash Brothers Melee, and just that, like, Nintendo is completely wildly against any playing of their games on something that is not their own, like, personal Nintendo sanctioned console, exactly the way that they want everything to be presented. So it's like, unfortunately, this is not surprising at all. And it's frustrating, though, because basically, these people are, as Point Crow's saying here, it comes from a place of love and excitement and of, spreading this IP. Can you imagine Capcom trying to crack down on all of the shirtless mods for Resident Evil 4? Like, they would never do that. They're like, yes, our game is goofy, go crazy, have a great time. I think there was like, I want to say in Resident Evil 2 Remake, there was like a bondage gear mod outfit for Leon. It's great. But yeah, but Nintendo, again, they're just so precious about their IP, and they don't see the benefit to fans having the license to go in and create these things, and the kind of hype and just like general bringing together of the community that these things do, because they're like, look, here's our $600 billion of Mario movie money. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think Nintendo is it's very fickle. I think that there is probably a difference of opinion on this stuff between Nintendo Company Limited in Japan and Nintendo of America. But Nintendo America's got to toe the line, and Nintendo America, I've said it a million times, is basically a law firm with a marketing department. And that's all they are. And so, like, they're gonna wield it. Nintendo's gonna wield Nintendo of America to come down hard on these things. Although Nintendo Company Limited did get involved in some of these strikes on the channel and made some of those strikes themselves. But it can go back and forth really quickly. We know that Nintendo has had a weird relationship with content creators. They had that Nintendo partnership program for a really long time, where it's like, yeah, you could promote our games, but we're going to get a slice of the money that you make from that. And that was weird. That was really weird. And Nintendo eventually was just like, this isn't worth it. We're just going to back off. And here's our new sort of stated policy on working with people where you could play our games, and we're going to kind of give you a stated right to do that. Nintendo does not have to go after this guy. I think there's always this there's this misconception about trademark and IP and copyright. Copyright is rock solid. You do not have to sue anyone to maintain your copyright. Your copyright is yours no matter what. That is rock solid, and that's not going to go anywhere. Trademark is the iffy thing, where it's like, if someone begins violating your trademark or using your trademark and you don't go after them, you have a chance of losing that. But that's, I think that the understanding is, people playing your stuff online is an accepted way of, like, there's this open gray area where people can do whatever they want in there, and that's not actually rubbing up against trademark. So Nintendo doesn't have to do this. They're choosing to do this, and I think they're doing it out of this sense of things are getting a little bit out of hand at the end of the Switch generation, where every game is leaking. This is a game they really don't want to leak, but it's going to happen. It's already had a number of leaks, Tears of the Kingdom, and in terms of, a GameStop employee posted pictures of the OLED Tears of the Kingdom model, and then Nintendo reacted to that by, hey, ask GameStop to fire that employee, and GameStop did. And then there's that recent commercial just leaked. I mean, leaks are everywhere for this thing. Yeah. And so they're like looking at this community still playing Breath of the Wild, and like, what's the kind of person that's going to be the most likely to sort of encourage? So anyone doing mods, because we know that they're using the kind of software, the kind of emulators or whatever that could go and play Tears of the Kingdom right as soon as it's released. And we want to maybe set a sort of a tone of, you definitely should not do that. Although I think most people know you shouldn't do that, especially if you're a big creator. So I think it's a losing battle for Nintendo, because it's just going to make people like Marino not want to cover your games, or make it less likely that
Yeah.
anyone else is going to want to be like, oh, and I'm going to be the next Tears of the Kingdom creator, because it's like, well, I don't want to get into a thing where
No,
Nintendo's
totally,
going to
'cause
be
you're gonna
reasonable.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like having, I've worked with Nintendo before, and their guidelines about their IP are very, very, very strict.
Yes.
And again, it's like you were saying, Grubb. Like there is a lot of freedom and flexibility. I think for the most part with playing games online, but like again, Nintendo's just so precious about how their brand is being presented that it's not a company I would necessarily want to get deeply in the weeds with in terms of, being like a Nintendo content creator, because it is fairly limiting.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where it's like, I would love to make something on Giant Bomb where we're all playing the Breath of the Wild multiplayer mod.
Totally. That'd be sick.
Not gonna do that. That's
No.
not.
Nope.
Yep. Not until Nintendo calms down about this stuff. Maybe one day,
Nope.
but it's like, nah,
Nope.
not right now. No thanks.
Yep.
All right, let's move along here to Lego 2K Drive's physical Switch release is just a download code. This comes from Lee and Doolin at Nintendo Life. Lego 2K Drive is due out on the Nintendo Switch next month, and if you were planning to add a physical copy to your collection, you might want to beware. In case you missed it, listings of the hard card copy include a number of warnings noting how a game card is not included with the physical version. A download will be required, and so will a micro SD card. The box art basically just shows that big label. It's like, there's no card in here. It's just going to be a download code, so you're just going to download it. This has happened in the past. I think Lego 2K Drive feels like a weird one for me, Emma, because the game itself apparently is like 4-ish gigabytes. They can put it on one of the smaller cards that are cheap to manufacture. Yeah. There are going to be obviously downloads that are going to happen and things like that. And it has microtransactions. And so I think they want people like, oh, you're going to be online anyhow. We want you there. But it's like, this is a game that's supposed to have this broad appeal for families and kids. And I think for families and kids, physical versions are very important because it's easy to pass a card around, and it's not so easy to share a digital version. So this rubs me a little bit the wrong way. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I'm totally with you. As somebody, that grew up with a brother, and we each had our own Game Boy, there was a lot of sharing of cartridges that happened between us, except obviously for Pokemon, because one of us had to have red version and one of us had to have blue version, naturally. so we could get all the Pokemon and trade with each other. But it's things like, I don't know, like Link's Awakening, we would just share between the two of us. So yeah, it's very interesting with a game that does have such a wide appeal for having a physical copy, that this is the choice that they would make. I also can't help but feel like selling physical copies that are just a box is an absolutely absurd waste of resources.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. I mean, of course, we get why they do it, because some people just go into stores, buy their games, and they don't want to miss out on those sales. But if you don't want to miss out on those sales, then put a goddamn card in the box. Put the game card in there so people can have it.
Easy.
Yep, it's silly. It's and yeah, I've moved past physical games for the most part, but it's like in cases like this.
Me too,
like,
but
yeah, I mean, when it's Doom Eternal, I can't remember if that one had a physical version or not, but it's like, I'm sure that it's something like that. It's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. If you really want that, it's a big game. Just get the digital version, or just go buy it and download it. Yeah. Whatever. But it's like, man, for something that's supposed to be appealing to families, not so much.
Yeah. Weird choice.
Ray tracing gets removed from Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes on PC. This is from Zoe Hanley at Destructoid. In a strange update that some are speculating was an accident, Capcom has removed the ray tracing feature from the PC ports of Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes. Furthermore, the Dolby Atmos feature was removed from Resident Evil 3. The patch rolled out sometime over the weekend. This writer saw it and wondered internally what it was for. There were no patch notes included with it. Reports later came in of the feature removal. Capcom has said nothing of the change, leading to much speculation. When you check the Steam forums, basically there's a lot of people talking about this right now, Emma, where like, hey, why didn't they even communicate this? And people are beginning to piece some of these things together. Where like, Capcom did say that they were going to end support for the DirectX 11 version, which is the prior one that wouldn't work with ray tracing, versus the DirectX 12 one. which just means that they aren't going to add new updates to the DirectX 11 one. But people are speculating something in there got mixed up, and Capcom accidentally disabled the DirectX 12 version or some aspects of it, and now the game just doesn't have any ray tracing and Dolby Atmos for Resident Evil 3. That's strange. This does sound like an accident. It's probably going to get reversed. But boy, it's like, man, Capcom, you were on your game for a while there after making mistake after mistake like last decade. Are you back? Is Weird Capcom back?
Weird Capcom's back. Yeah, to me, this feels like it's absolutely a mistake. I mean, especially given the fact that they are ending support for the DX11 version. It feels like they accidentally removed it from DX12 and it should be back in there with another patch. It feels weird that we haven't already released another update to resolve this. But this to me reads of total mistake, especially. But the weird thing is, again, that Capcom hasn't commented on the lack of ray tracing in DX12.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, well, they should just come out and say something. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have by now, but I mean, they had not this morning, as far as I could see. And it's so it's like, yeah, they should probably just come out and be like, that was an accident. We're gonna fix it, or maybe they're just kind of catching up. But it's well into it's Tuesday basically now in Japan, right? So it's like, they probably had enough time to actually come out and say something. So it's weird that they haven't. We'll keep an eye on this. Ray tracing worked surprisingly well in those Resident Evil games, and the DirectX 11 version does run more smoothly just because that's just how it is. Still, DirectX 11 is a very mature graphics library. So it's, but still, DirectX 12 has some impressive features, and hopefully they get this fixed, because that is probably what they're going to keep updating in the future.
Yep.
All right, couple other quick stories. Over 1 million copies of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, have been sold. This comes from Ben Leon at Game Reactor. Konami has announced that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, is now a million seller. As revealed in a post on Twitter, we're told that the game has not just surpassed that milestone, but that players have defeated 350 million foot soldiers during their playtime, eaten 6 million pizzas, and shredded 2 million of Shredder's plans. This is kind of one of these games where it's like, yeah, I was excited about that. I remember a lot of people like getting it at the time, but was I in a bubble? No. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is still very popular, and even the sort of collection of older games has the power to do very well. I think we're in a strong point for gaming, Emma, where new games could come out and be successful, a big massive remakes can come out and be successful, and just collections of older games that are beloved can succeed as well. It's like people just want a lot of games, and this is evidence of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, especially when you price those collections to sell, it's a very smart move to basically make money off of something that already exists, package it all together. People will buy it. I'm notorious for rebuying every single game from my childhood if it gets re-released. And do I ever actually play it from start to finish? Probably not, but I'm not ever mad that I bought it, because it's like, well, I can, go back and re-experience this if I ever get the hankering.
Yep, and this is Digital Eclipse, which has done a lot of these collections. They did Atari 50. Yeah. They're just so good at this, and I'm like, hey, guys, look what happens when you take your collections of games to them and let them do their business and really spruce them up. It can go very well. And I'm like, just keep giving them business, keep giving them money, keep letting them do this, because it's the sort of the best of these sorts of collections. So yes, I hope that success just amplifies them and they're able to hire more people and do even more of these in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super Nintendo World visitors complain about looseness of power-up band. This comes from My Nintendo News. Super Nintendo World seems to have received genuinely good feedback from fans. However, many attendees have one common complaint with the $40 power-up band, and it's that the band apparently is very loose and falls off. Jenny Nicholson sparked a fierce conversation online, which she said, "Have we had the conversation about how these fly off your wrist if you jostle them?" I didn't know. Mine was pretty okay, but it's like, also mine was like, my wrist was too big for it, so it was like, it would kind of like curl up in a weird way. But also it was like, it was on there, it didn't fall off. I went on some rides with it, it was never a problem.
So, Universal is definitely aware of the fact that these bands are loose. And
how do you know that?
And here is how I know this. I attended the opening night party of Super Nintendo World. I was very honored to do so. It was a blast. They gave us all little stretchy bands to put around our wristbands to hold them in place. And they work great. So if they would just start packaging these little like stretchy things that you just slide over the like two sides of the snap bracelet,
the power-up
to
band
keep
condoms. Yeah, we know.
Yeah, power-up band condoms. Yeah, you basically then just like sort of keep them in place. It's like a watch strap almost.
Yes.
They're great. I literally, though, because I had already gone, my partner and I just kind of one day were like, you know what? A lot of people have been able to get in because of tech rehearsals. I was a tour guide at Universal for many, many years. So I just like hit up a friend and I was like, hey, can I get some park tickets? And so we went in pretty early, managed to get into Super Nintendo World, basically 10 o'clock in the morning. It was awesome. I immediately bought us power-up bands. Yes, we had a lot of issues with them. I'm pretty sure mine came completely flying off when I was doing the Bowser Jr. fight. So when I went to the opening night party, I had a roll of double-sided Gorilla tape in my bag that I brought so I could tape it in place so I wouldn't lose
incredible.
it. Yeah, but then they gave us those little stretchy white band things, which I now have in a basket somewhere. My power-up bands are all behind me, but they're on shelves that are too high up for you to see them. But we have quite the collection at this point because we bought them, and then I also was given one on the opening night, which was really great.
Nintendo Universal does sell those securement bands apparently separately at the
they
park.
do?
They do sell them. Yes,
They should just package them with the bands.
Pack them in, those things are $40. They can afford to package in the power-up condom. Like, please.
It's just a little piece of stretchy rubber. Like, it's like those Live Strong bracelets, but littler.
Yes, yes. It's like it's a weird thing. It's how did they not think of it? It's like, oh no, they did. They know. It's just
no, they did.
There's probably some just like aesthetic thing where they're like, looks better if it's just like a snap bracelet. Although those things are so heavy, if you try to like snap it, you could like really hurt yourself. It's like, it's not a good thing to snap.
Yeah, you just kind of have to do like a gentle.
You have to actually
wrap around,
adjust it on there slowly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that it's because of the weight of the like circular part of the power-up band itself that you get the that they're a little unwieldy. Like they don't have a good snap to them.
Right, exactly.
Like a snap bracelet should.
Yes, but it's like, so it's like if you try, my kid was trying, like I brought mine home, my kid was trying to do it and she's just like basically just hurting herself. I'm like, just stop. I know it looks like a snap bracelet, but no, it's not. Well, we'll see. I bet they re-engineer those at some point. We'll see. I got my Luigi one though. I hope that I am able to get the others
I feel like I was seeing possible mock-ups for some villain character power-up bands being released in Japan.
I think that's also inevitable. Yes, that's very fun. Give me my Wario one, please.
Yeah, I want a Wario and Waluigi takeover of Super Nintendo. And the thing that was cool on opening night was they did all of these projections. So I'm like, it seems very possible to me to just like Wario and Waluigi graffiti the heck out of this place and make them the main villains for a little while.
All right, let's get these last couple of stories. Halo franchise director Frank O'Connor appears to have left Microsoft. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. It appears that Halo's franchise director Frank O'Connor has left Microsoft, as spotted by Windows Central. O'Connor's LinkedIn page was recently updated to state that his role as the creative director on Xbox's flagship shooter series has ended this month. It also lists him as starting a new full-time role as a franchise creative director elsewhere in March. Microsoft has yet to officially confirm if O'Connor has left the company, but VGC has contacted the platform holder for comment. O'Connor's worked on Halo for a long time, since 2004. I remember I used to read him in Game Players magazine in the 90s, and then I think he did like the official Xbox magazine, things like that, which I didn't read. But he was an editor for a really long time and then went on to work on Halo. And this is not something this is only not surprising because there's been a little bit of a cleaning the house situation at the top of 343, where he's not the only one to leave. Creative director Tom French left. Director of engineering David Berger left. Art director Nicholas Bouvier left, and Jerry Hook also. Jerry Hook, who's the head of design. Lead multiplayer designer Andrew Witz left, and Bonnie Ross, who was the studio head for 15 years, also left. I've definitely heard that they are trying to clean house at 343 a little bit. Now, to what end? Like, are they bringing in a whole new crop of people like from somewhere else to take over, or are they moving people from 343 up? It seems like they're moving people up from within, but
sure.
But yeah, I think this continues to be part of that. I really liked Halo Infinite when it launched. It was a game that's kind of a bummer to think about for a long time there, as people started to really sour on it and the content wasn't just getting updated. It seems to be in a better place now, but the future of Halo is still a big question mark. How
That's
are you
how
feeling
I feel
about it?
too. Yeah, I just don't know because I feel like Halo Infinite, again, as you say, there was a decent amount of a positive feeling around it. Some of it, of course, having to do, I think, with the legacy of the Halo series, and to a certain extent, I think people really are rooting for Halo, and they just kind of keep under delivering.
Yes. It's like they just can't get it. Well, many of their things, but especially Halo, they just can't get it to that next echelon. They can't figure out what it should be in the future. I think they had this idea of like, we'll release Halo Infinite and we'll build it into this thing over time, sort of like Destiny did. And it's like, well, you can't, not with like with a big, with something that's established, you kind of can't do that. It has to be everything that's going to be right at the start. And
right
then
out the gate.
And then it could get bigger over time, but it's got to be everything it can be right away. And it just wasn't.
No.
All right, last story here. U.S. Senator asks Sony CEO to reveal PlayStation's game exclusivity deals. This comes from Cascullion at VGC. A U.S. Senator has written an open letter to Sony CEO requesting information on the company's game exclusivity deals. North Dakota Republican Senator Kevin Kramer says he sent the letter to Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida regarding its anti-competitive behavior and to request information on the company's acquisition agreements. In the letter originally spotted by Axios, Kramer tells Yoshida that he is writing to express concerns about Sony's efforts to protect its gaming console business from competition. This is not the first senator to do this. There was a bunch of other Congress people that did this in the last month. It continues to be just really dumb. I think overall we can agree exclusives are pretty good for the industry because it gives this incentive to invest in really big games that otherwise might not make sense, right?
Absolutely. And again, obviously, this all sounds like it's part of the ongoing Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard of it all, and that it's baffling to me the extent to which like Sony is being persecuted basically throughout this. And look, I'm biased. I'm a Sony PlayStation player through and through. And part of the big appeal of those consoles is the exclusives that they get or the timed exclusives that they get. And that's part of what, keeps me coming back to the PlayStation. And, the PlayStation 5 is a really powerful console. But yeah, I mean, this is just wild, especially, just the sort of crux of all of this is in terms of the like Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard deal is that Activision Blizzard is like very high up there. I think its market value is very similar to like Nintendo. So, if Microsoft were to acquire them, that would make them exponentially more gigantic and put them in the position of holding a monopoly. And so basically what they're trying to uncover here is this idea that Sony has something similar with their game exclusivity deals, but it's just not on that scale, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's working backward from these companies or these Congress people are, well, Microsoft's an American company and we're going to kind of have their back because they employ a lot of people in America. And it's that simple. I think when it comes to Sony, even if the Activision deal goes through, Sony will still have a larger piece of the pie than Microsoft plus Activision. But it's that hasn't been. Sony's not under the regulatory microscope because they're not making this big change to the industry, and so it's completely fair that Microsoft gets this scrutiny, and it's been able to answer a lot of the questions, and it seems inevitable now that the deal's going to get approved, but it had to go through the ringer a little bit, and I think that's kind of only a good thing because it's like we all have a better understanding of the dynamism of the video game industry now because we've talked it over so many times, and these regulators have looked into it and they're like, this is not going to actually threaten much, even though Sony went to town trying to find ways to prove that it would. So it's like, okay, well, we've kind of talked this out, we've looked into it, and can feel pretty good about the industry's health overall. And then these Congress people are just turning like, all right, now let's we're gonna like throw this back at Sony, and it just looks completely stupid because they just don't know what they're talking about. And no one that like has any issue like within the gaming industry, no one that has issues with this the big monopolies or with big mergers and stuff like that are saying, and we should end all exclusivity deals. It's like that has made the world go round in gaming for a very long time, and everyone tends to be in favor of them because it creates a huge opportunity for investment that otherwise wouldn't exist. So it's just just lay off, get back in your lane a little bit. But that's Congress people. They're always going to kind of be doing this stuff. That's weird. All right, let's see here. Let's get to the poll from last week. I have it right here. Let me hit this real quick. There we go, and then bring this up. There we go. All right, I asked, are you going to play Minecraft Legends? 66.3% said no, 33.7% said yes. Perfect 1/3 there. How about you, Emma? You going to get in there and check out Minecraft Legends when it launches?
I'm not really a Minecrafter.
Yeah. It's this real-time strategy thing where I'm like, maybe, but I'm like, it's on Game Pass. I'll probably just check it out because it's there. But beyond that, I'm not like super excited. And the reviews for it were pretty like, it's one of those real-time strategy games, right? Did they come out yet? I can't remember. I think they did. I might be making that up, but it seemed like at least the word on the street was, it's okay. But it's nothing special. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just check it out if I have time. Although time is at a premium. There's so many games I want to play right now that maybe this doesn't.
Very true. This is a good year for game releases.
I'm going to write up a new poll that we're going to answer on Wednesday when we come back after the Bombcast on Tuesday. In the meantime, though, Emma, why don't you tell people where they can find you? Tell them a little bit about yourself, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Emma Fyffe. I'm a senior video producer at Fandom. So also working with the Giant Bomb and GameSpot teams. I'm at Emma Fyffe all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold. That's me. Right now on Twitter, I still have a blue check mark, but apparently I'm losing that on 420.
Is that the new one?
That's the new date. Yeah.
So he did April Fool's Day, and then he did 420.
April Fool's Day, and then everybody's going to be too stoned to remember to remove the check marks like they said they were going to do. Anyway, Emma Fyffe, that's me. On Thursday on the Fandom Twitch channel, myself and Bailey Myers, who I know was on this show last week, we are going to be co-streaming the Capcom Street Fighter 6 event at 3 p.m. Pacific. And then after that, I'm going to force Bailey to play Resident Evil 4 remake because she is a scaredy cat, and I don't think she's played a single Resident Evil game, and so I'm really excited for her to experience the first village fight. It's going to be great. And also, hopefully, we should have some codes from Capcom of the game to give away as well. So come hang out with us, twitch.tv/fandom, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday.
Ooh, I'll be there. I'll be watching.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be a good time. All right, great. I got the new poll. Let's get that up. Is Sega moving in the right direction, or is it on the wrong track? Let's just do that political poll. There you go. Right direction, wrong track. I know it's a mixed metaphor, but that's how they ask it in for actual polls. So go ahead and get your answers in. We will discuss it on Wednesday on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, what do we have going on this week? We're going to be recording some quick looks. We're going to have a meeting here pretty soon about what's what with all that. And then, also the normal shows. We're going to have the Connectivity Compadres, Four Swords Fiesta on Wednesday, Blight Club on Thursday, along with Voicemail Dump Truck and Unprofessional Fridays. All those shows. We'll probably have some other fun stuff going on. Maybe we'll do something with Street Fighter since that's happening. So look out for all that here on Giant Bomb. Emma, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I really appreciate it.
Of course. My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody, for watching as well. You're the best audience in gaming. We'll be back with the Bombcast tomorrow. Until then, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Bye.